Hello and welcome to Big Weekend here on the Football365 show. I'm Mark Smith. I'm with Editor-in-Chief of Football365.com, Sarah Winterburn. If you enjoy the show, don't forget to like and subscribe and also press the little notification bell so you never miss a show ever again. Right, Sarah, lots to get into. This is Big Weekend brought to you by Paddy Power. Now let's start then with, obviously, a huge weekend for England. They're playing on Thursday night against Wales, but we don't count that, do we? Because that is Thursday, and Thursday is not a weekend. So ignore the England-Wales friendly. But we've got to talk about Gareth Southgate. It feels like a big weekend for him to try and change the tide of feeling towards England squad at the minute.
Yeah, there was this massive wave of momentum, wasn't there, around the World Cup and then the Nations League when we beat Spain. We had the waistcoat. Everyone was wearing waistcoats. Everyone was singing Atomic Kitten. Now that seems an awful long time ago now, doesn't it? Because it's all lost its momentum, hasn't it? It's all felt a bit. I mean, England can feel a bit damp squib anyway, but this has felt particularly damp squib in the last year or so. You know, he had that 3-4-3 at the World Cup, which did its job, and it kind of got us somewhere. And there was this wave of sort of positivity. Look, we're in a World Cup semi-final. But then afterwards, the post-mortem was basically, well, as soon as we played a decent side, we fell down again because we couldn't keep the ball, and we almost didn't want the ball. So we tried to change that, but now having realised that didn't really work, and we don't have the players, now we're moving back again to the 3-4-3. But yeah, it's big for him. And the last time England played last month, they were poor. They were poor in 2 games. They were poor against Iceland, they were poor against Denmark. And England have to be better than that, yeah.
Yeah, but we're still, I mean, we should be positive, really. We're still joint favourites to win the whole thing, I believe. I'm not really sure why.
But yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I think there's reasons to be positive, though, aren't there? We have got some outstanding young players coming forward. We seem to have, like you say, the momentum. It has gone a little bit over the last couple of months, but I do feel as though that's something that can quite quickly get back to those levels. Now, I'm not saying go out and buy a waistcoat. That's obviously not what I'm saying. But there's reasons to be, cheerful, I think, generally. We've got some, not just young players coming through, we've got some real quality totems of that team that have been there for a few years and know their way around. Speaking of which, let's move on to Harry Kane, because Harry Kane undoubtedly is our number one striker, but he seems to have some competition now, or certainly there's some competition amongst his understudies of who could take that backup slot.
We're in a much better position, aren't we? Definitely. I mean, a couple of years ago, you were kind of looking at it and saying it's Harry Kane or bust, or Harry Kane, and you're going towards Marcus Rashford, who never looks comfortable as a number 9. Now we have options. We have 3 other options in the England squad who are actually A, genuine strikers, and B, scoring goals. Logic would say Calvert-Lewin is the reserve choice there. He's the one who's in massively good form, but Gareth Southgate does like the players he's sort of brought through. He does have his comfort blankets, and I think Tammy Abraham's probably just ahead of him in that. But I think logic would say Calvert-Lewin, and I've got a massive soft spot for Danny Ings. Unfortunately, he's not come through that England system. He's not got that England DNA, which Southgate absolutely loves. So he's kind of an outsider in the same way that Callum Wilson was an outsider. Though Danny Ings is a much better player than Callum Wilson, I believe. So I think he will get bit parts, and I think he might be happy with that. I think, having been through what he's been through in terms of injuries, and that big dream move to Liverpool not quite working out, he's found his level at Southampton. There's a great club to be at, and he'll probably be all right being 3rd or 4th choice there.
Yeah, I mean, I have mentioned there that they're all probably backups to Harry Kane, but actually, the way Kane's playing this season, he's dropping in a little bit deeper. He's a goal maker at the minute. So many assists already this season. It could be that we play a different sort of system and someone plays alongside Harry Kane, couldn't it?
There is an option there. I mean, we've seen from Harry Kane that this season is almost like dropping back into those De Bruyne spaces where he's kind of pulling out and then looking out for that. And obviously England relies so much on that pace on the wings that actually someone dropping in and then knocking that ball out wide and then having a Calvert-Lewin in the box to finish it actually might well work.
Yeah, and by the way, I mean, we have a proud tradition of lumping balls into the box. And Calvert-Lewin the air. Calvert-Lewin in the air, oh my God, like genuinely Ronaldo-esque. That's plenty to look forward to. So it's good to have plenty of options going forward. There's a position on the pitch that traditionally we've been very good at, and that's centre-back. We've always had good partnerships, good individuals. At the moment, I can't even work out what our first choice centre-back pairing is. Or even if it's a pairing, maybe it's 3. What is it?
We've got no idea, have we? I think it's almost tempting to go with the 3, isn't it? Because there's more stability in a 3. And also because some of the players who are coming through are much more comfortable in that 3. Certainly Connor Cody is is an option in a 3 and he's not an option in a 2, really. As soon as you go into a 3, you're opening it up to Kyle Walker again, who did so well in that position in the run-up to the World Cup. You possibly even people have talked about Wan-Bissaka in that position because he's not a great attacking fullback. He may well end up being more of a sort of a third centre half. And even Luke Shaw's played that position. I know they're far away from the England squad at the moment, but we do have various players who play better in that system. At the moment, it's very difficult to pick a 2 because the Premier League's gone batshit. It doesn't make any sense. There's goals going in all over the place.
You've not mentioned, you've not mentioned Harry Maguire yet. He's got to be the first name that comes out your lips on this, surely. He's still England's number 1 centre-back, isn't he?
He is England's number 1 centre-back. I do think Gareth Southgate initially wanted to build around John Stones rather than Harry Maguire because John Stones fits in better with his way of playing. But unfortunately, Pep is so far down Pep Guardiola's thinking at the moment, he can't be anywhere near England. You don't really want to build around Harry Maguire because that means you have to sit deeper. It means you have to take account for his lack of pace. You have to take account for the fact he can get turned quite easily, which immediately puts you back in the John Terry day where you have to go further back in order to sort of recompense for that.
Do you want to build your team around a centre back? Not really.
No, God, no.
And I think the other thing is, you mentioned John Stones there. I think we all agree he's the best of the players in terms of distribution from the back. But he mustn't ever be half of your defence, must he? He mustn't be half your centre backs. If you're going to play him, fine. But he has to be around 2 other specialists, I think.
Yeah, it worked in the World Cup, didn't it? Because you had him, Maguire and Walker, because you had the recovery pace of Walker was massive. Maguire is going to get caught on the turn. He will get caught too far at the pitch, and also John Stones will make mistakes. So you had that combination of 3, but that all feels quite a long time ago now, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It does. There is sort of an outside chance that Harry Maguire doesn't make the squad at all, or is that sort of pie in the sky? Is he going to find his form again, settle down, and be consistent?
He will find his form again. I think Man United need to find a different way of playing with him. Maybe, like you say, dropping deeper and giving him a bit more cover. They spent a massive amount of money on him. He's not worth that amount of money, but that's not his fault, is it?
No, absolutely not. Now let's move on to what I consider the thorniest issue of all the issues, not just in football, but in global politics at the moment.
In the world.
And that is who is England's number 1 goalkeeper. Now, I talk about Jordan Pickford every other week on the show. You know where I stand on it. Anyone who watches it know where I stand on it. I think he's a good keeper, but maybe just needs taken out of the firing line for a little bit. All these individual errors are going to cost England at some point, aren't they?
They might, but they haven't yet, and that's why Gareth Southgate doesn't think it's a thorny issue. He'll tell, and international managers will tell you this about keepers. You only have to look at Spain, where Kepa is still playing for Spain, despite everything that's happened at Chelsea. Because international managers will look at their keeper as, have they let me down? And that's what people will say. That's what he said. It's like back in the day it was Joe Hart, wasn't it? And before that it was Paul Robinson. And all these players, especially goalkeepers, have these patches, don't they, where they look very poor. But the international manager will generally stick with the man that's not let them down. And I think Pickford is in that position for England. Yes, he will make an absolute cock of something at some point, and he'll smile and look awkward because that's what he does, like a little child.
My point here is that he will obviously make a mistake. Keepers make mistakes. They're only human. That's fine. But he will drop a clanger or 2, hugely high-profile errors. And it's not as though at that point we can say, oh, that came out of the blue. We didn't see that happening. That won't happen. Instead, Southgate will get blamed and absolutely hammered by the press for not picking players on form the way he said he would from the very beginning of his tenure.
I think the problem he's got is he doesn't have a goalkeeper to pick at the moment. If Dean Henderson was playing for Man United, he was playing for another club, I think he would be in there. And I think he's got the problem that Nick Pope hasn't started very well for Burnley this season. Burnley are, looking deep trouble, and it's really difficult to pick that goalkeeper in that kind of form. So unless Caldalo gets called up,
You absolutely love Caldalo, don't you?
Well, I couldn't pick him out of a lineup unless he was wearing a shirt with Darlow on the back. But I checked, and he's English. That's how little I know about Caldalo. I had to check that he's English. And he's the best keeper in the Premier League. Get him in there. At centre-half if he needs to be.
I know you're sort of joking, but he probably has been the best keeper in the Premier League so far this season.
He has.
Southgate, base it on form, Southgate. You said you would. Live up to your word. Come on, man. Look, I don't want to hammer goalkeepers too much because it's a far more psychological position than anywhere else on the pitch. I think 95% of it is in your own head. It's more like golf or, a solo sport.
And you can get the yips in the same way.
You can get the yips, exactly right. I mean, we've seen that with Kepa, who I don't think does know how to play in goal, actually, at all. But Pickford has shown that he's a good goalkeeper. It's just about getting that confidence back. And I think the same way Ancelotti's brought somebody in to cover for him at Everton, it's to keep him on his toes, isn't it? And whether it means he's going to be genuine competition or just to keep him on his toes, I don't know. But for the same reason, let's get someone into the England side, not just the squad, the side, and play him for the next couple of games, just to let Pickford know that, you know what, your position isn't actually safe.
It's a lovely thought, but dream on, mate.
Yeah. All right, well, on that note, that is all we've got time for. Thank you, Sarah Winterburn, for joining me this week on Big Weekend. This has been The Big Weekend brought to you by Paddy Power. If you want to get in touch with the show, you can email us. It's at theeditor@football365.com. Until next week, goodbye.